key things I learned whilst looking after my mum who had vascular dementia was that ultimately it is you and the person that you are looking after. For me, I had my wife and my children, and I wasn't dependent on other siblings or other family members to help us out. So we became much more resilient and able to cope in that situation.
I think one thing that I've learned is just how horrendous the system is, just how complex it is, and how difficult it is to find something that's appropriate to my needs, my husband's needs, and just work your way through this horrific maze. Nobody has the whole picture.
It's realising that you have to step into their reality, and you have to embrace their reality and go on the journey that they're on, which generally is you will learn about their past, about things that they probably have forgotten about themselves beforehand, and they'll relive them and have those experiences again for the first time.
I think the single most important thing that we've learned, in particular over the last probably couple of years really, rather than it being a kind of terribly recent thing, is that whilst we've got really good at, or certainly got much better at identifying people with dementia and giving them a confirmed diagnosis, I think we're much less certain about people's experience beyond that date.
Well, I think it's peer support of people who actually understand what it's like to live and care 24/7 with someone with dementia. So that support is absolutely essential.
I think one of the things that I have learned, and it was a very hard lesson, was just how hopeless I think dementia services are. Certainly in my locality, I'm not impressed. And I'd love to take it all out, root and branch, and start over again. And that's one of the great things about the new combined authorities. We actually have the chance to do that. Sadly, they won't clear out the people they've already got, and that's what I'd like to do.
Well, people say, oh, I understand, I know what you must be going through, but they don't. Unless they've actually lived that experience, they just cannot understand what it is like, the stress that the families are under. And it's not just for, the husband or the wife or whatever, it's for the whole family as well. They need that support. Because they've, in my case, they've lost the dad in many ways, although he's always very much there, yeah.
Somebody with a proper map of who does what, where, when, and how I get to them. Instead of which I've had to do my own research, which I don't mind doing, but if it's taken me 6 months to find an appropriate telephone for my husband, when the local assistive technology person has offered me all sorts of other inappropriate ones that they deem as being dementia friendly, for goodness sake, this could have been so much better.
It's knowing that there is a reliable and single named contact that you can go to in terms of support, queries, just overcoming some of the day-to-day challenges and having a kind of go-to person to support you, especially in the early days.
They just miss everything. They just think of it as, oh, he can't find his keys, and oh, has he been to the shop today? But they just don't realise that cognition, comprehension, everything is affected. And that all adds, it's not just, oh, I'll find his keys. It's everything else that goes with it.
I think they've got to start talking to carers and to people living with dementia about the sorts of gadgets that we actually want, rather than the ones that they want to provide us with.
Realising that it's a psychological approach that's needed, and people may say there's medications and tablets and all the rest of it. They're not really going to help, and the chances are they aren't. They're going to do harm more than any good. And I would just encourage anyone that's caring for people with dementia to focus on psychological approaches, ways of helping and de-escalating and strategies.
The one thing that would have helped us as a family and me as a carer would have been just the ability to take some time out from caring for mum literally on a 24/7 basis because we had no out time. There was nowhere for us to go. No one reached out to us to say, are you guys okay? Are you coping? Do you need some time away from looking after mum? But then again, I think even if we had that option, I'm not sure whether we would have been able to, because we have that old guilt. I'm here enjoying myself at the cinemas, and mum's on their own with somebody else.
If you could get a one-stop shop would be perfect, where all that information was handed to you once you got the diagnosis of dementia, that everything was handed to you almost on a, it sounds greedy, but on a plate. So you would know where to go. I mean, we were probably 2 years after diagnosis, discharged from hospital, just didn't know which way to turn until I started cracking up. And then my daughters pushed forward of getting some help, getting advice. And that's when I heard about the Admiral nurses, who became a lifeline for me and still is very much part of our lives with this continuing support, even though Michael has gone into care. They are there, you know, all the time for you, yeah.
Teepa Snow. That's T-E-E-P-A, Snow. She's an American OT, and she does YouTube videos which you can access for free, and they're short, and they explain different aspects of how you can help someone, what strategies you can use, do's and don'ts, etc. And it not being a big long leaflet or booklet or amount of literature to read, and you can see a short video with her demonstrating and stuff like that. It was the best thing that I came across, and it saved me, to be honest, and made my life a lot more easier.
How many countries are in South Asia? Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, I can go on. And within those countries you have different provinces. Within those provinces you have different dialects, languages, food, diet, clothes, whatever. So for people to, especially commissioners and service providers, to generalise or to make assumptions based on one homogenous group, it doesn't meet the needs of the individual communities that live within in towns and cities. So it's really understanding those communities, where they're coming from, what their needs are, listening to them and working with them. So do it with them rather than to them.
Really improving people's lived experience with dementia isn't something that we can fix through a training programme for healthcare professionals. It's not something that actually exists as a programme of work where there's a beginning, middle and end. The only way this works is if it feels like a movement.
My husband might have accepted he had dementia if he hadn't have felt there was a stigma. But with my age group particularly, you know, in those days it was a stigma, and Michael, very proud man, wouldn't have accepted that. So that's, you know, something that we need to get across. There shouldn't be a stigma. It's no different to kidney disease or liver disease. It's a disease of the brain.
Everybody has a part to play. This isn't something that GPs can fix or hospital doctors can fix or social workers can fix. This is something where we all need to be thinking, actually, have I done my bit as a dementia friend today, and do I know whether I have or I haven't? So that idea of it being more of a movement and touching everybody.